beginning miles of those races. Like I said, a lot of people skip those early aid stations. I would also check into some kind of a sodium supplement. I recommend S-Caps, Succeed Caps. They've got like 349 milligrams of sodium per capsule, which is pretty solid. You don't want to take any more than like a gram per hour on a crazy hot day. So that's a great way to supplement that, and you can include some of that in your a few days pre-race, where you can get some in your diet as well. I can definitely come up with some guidance for that. You definitely want to check that out. Brian wants an example of the VDOT chart. There's plenty of VDOT charts out there. I don't want to go too far into it. Let me see here if I can toggle over, and I'll pull up that free resource that I have for us. I don't have a chart for you exactly. Well, let's do this here. I'll log into the member site. As you guys can see real fast how it works on the inside of the house. And this is just a very quick view of what you can see. So on the Pro system, you actually go in and you're going to enter your 5K VDOT. Okay, where is it here? Let's find our calculator. I think I can navigate my own website. So you go ahead and you say your 5K time is 24 minutes. Okay, and we want to calculate our VDOT. My VDOT is 40.2, so I'm going to get my training paces from that VDOT. And this is for our training purposes only, but it spits out these training paces for me, and I can always add them to my training plan as I go forward. We have new race guidance coming up soon. We'll be able to take this VDOT and actually pull out a chart for you as a Marathon Nation athlete. But this number here generates these paces off of a chart online, okay? I can look up and see basically the VDOT. What I'll do is I'll give you this other webs here, which is linked in the presentation, so you'll see it. You don't have to save it. This is called the Attack Point website, which is a VDOT calculator as well. The VDOT has also got some additional information about VDOT you can find elsewhere. This is an article by Jack Daniels himself. Basically, the point of VDOT was a pace that correlated well to a pace at VO2 max, and he figured out a way scientifically to match that pace at other distances. So what a VDOT calculator does, for example, when you submit a 3-mile pace, a 3-mile test at 18 minutes and 40 seconds, basically these are your training paces for it, but these are your predicted paces as well. It says hey, you should be able to run a 10K out in a 40-10 range based off of that time for 3 miles, okay? That's the guidance that we use for that. So I don't have a full chart for you to look at, but I will have that chart for you guys and we'll email you. Alexander asked about salt products, but I already told you. Oh, no hills for Mary in Miami. Can I do training on the treadmill? Yes, you can. You can jack up the treadmill and run at a harder pace. But remember that on race day, I'd like you to actually slow down a little bit on those hills. So what I would probably encourage you to do is get some intense training sessions in on the treadmill and do those during the week where you can do some really steep inclines, some good solid running. Probably encourage you to do some strength training work as well to strengthen those legs. And then obviously at the end of the day, you got to run smart. How do I recommend getting faster over distance or speed work? It's never as simple as that, Dale. That's a great question. I, again, prefer that most people start fast, add far, because the fast, I think, building fast is harder than adding far. But that said, everyone hits a point in their career of training where doing the same thing for so long doesn't yield results, and sometimes going longer helps. I've had great success running lots of miles. I've had great success running fast. I've never had great success doing both at the same time. I encourage a lot of people to try the faster running. Running fast is fun. It's challenging. And adding far, when you get right down to it, for most people is not a limiter unless it's an early season race. So I would try the fast first if you can. Will the webinar be archived? Yes, it will, Genevieve. We'll save it, and I'll be downloading it for you and putting it up online as well. Where can you access the 24-week program? Genevieve, that's over on the Marathon Nation website, which I showed you earlier. That's the members side. But if you go to marathonnation.us, right now it's still closed, but you'll be able to click on the join button in a few days on Monday and actually sign up. Right now, you can just sign up for this list, and we'll follow up with you via email as a reminder, so you can get that as well. Thank you. Steve, how do you maintain your speed when it's 95 degrees outside with high humidity? Steve, that's the million-dollar question. Good God, it's so hard to do, and lightning people suffer in the humidity. At the end of the day, you sort of have to, as I mentioned with those preconditions before, you're going to have to really sort of factor in how fast you can actually go. If the day is really pushing back on you, you may want to run, sub 4 hours, but if the conditions are set up as such, you're probably not going to reach that goal. Your body's going to have to work too hard relative to your fitness level. So maybe you run a 4:10 or a 4:07. You may not be able to reach that 4-hour goal, but you're looking at how you placed overall, and chances are you did very well. You hear a lot of stories at the end of the day of people talking about exploding and seeing visions and dying, and you didn't have that. It means you had a great race, right? You had a good run. So don't. I encourage you to be a little more conservative when it gets to that point. And do a better job, if you can, of picking a race that's not going to be so hot and so humid. A race like Disney in January is great because it's so cool, and almost freezing at the start. A race like Philly in the fall as well because it's always cool. Those hotter races are just so hard to reach your best at. Okay, Judy asks, what if your current fitness level predicts out to a faster marathon you've been able to accomplish? How do you work with that? Well, part of it, Susan, is, well, first of all, that's awesome, right? You can be fast. That's awesome. But as you pointed out, it's potential. It's not a given. So you have to start training to those numbers. Since you're using VDOT, and if you're following our training plans, or if you take your training plan and start massaging the numbers using those VDOT guidances from the Attack Point website, and again, you'll be getting that link in the PDF email after this presentation is over, you'll actually be training to that number over time. So you'll be training to that pace as you build up the miles. So you'll start off with 8 miles and you'll be running at that VDOT. And then soon you're running 12, 16, 20 miles closer to that VDOT. And you're training up to that fitness level. You're not just simply running 10-minute miles all the time regardless of the distance. Because running the same pace all the time will not yield any adaptation. You won't get faster. So, can weightlifting improve marathon performance? Brian asked. Brian, great question. In general, I'm not a fan of strength training in terms of boosting performance. I do believe in the principle of specificity, which says to get better at something, i.e. running, then do more running. I do think strength training does help people improve their technique and improve their durability, but it does not take the place of running. So by all means, if you're a runner over 40 and you're losing some muscle mass, it's a great way to break up the season. Do some weightlifting in the winter, the off season. But I do encourage people to scale back. We have inside Marathon Nation, we use circuit workouts for a lot of our in-season strength training because they're somewhat cardiovascular. They're not too strenuous on the body. What do I think about mountain trail running as part of the training? Andy, I think whatever's safe and fun. That's a great way to build some endurance and stamina as long as you're not going to twist a leg. Absolutely. Got to keep it fun. So Charmel asks, hey, my fastest marathon time is 4:57. If I only run for 3 hours, I still need to get to another hour and 57 minutes. Will I really be ready if I only run 3 hours? The answer is, remember, your body, when it's running in race day, doesn't say, okay, here we go, we're about to go on the last 8 miles. Let's look back, muscles, to that one run where I ran longer than 3 hours, and now I can race. No, your fitness on race day is a result of what you've done cumulatively for the last 12, 16, 18, 24 weeks. And that's what you bring to the table when you tell your body to run 26.2 miles. Your body doesn't look back and say there are only 4 workouts. I mean, if that was the case, people would be selling 4 workout training plans. So if the 3-hour cap seems too aggressive for you, then break up the runs. Do a Saturday and a Sunday. But guaranteed, you're going to be in a better spot if you don't exceed that 3-hour time limit. On this in another article online in the archives. You can find that on our blog. But the physical cost of running slower miles, call it 12-minute miles, but doing it for 4 hours, you compare that with a runner who runs 7-minute miles for the same distance but accomplishes that in a 2-hour and 15-minute run. You, as a slower runner, are putting up so much more stress on your body. It's insane. There's no wonder that so many of middle-of-the-pack, back-of-the-pack runners get injured, overuse injuries, because you're out there for almost 2 hours longer than other runners. Training plans, a lot of them are written by fast people. They don't take slower people into account, so be good to your body, okay? Okay, 8:57. I'm going to go to answer all these questions, so keep them coming. Let's see here. Is there a significant advantage to running the long run at a scheduled race time? Boston started at 10, but here in Florida I run at 5. Should I run in the middle of the day despite the heat, or should I run at the cooler time? For the most part, I don't think it's a big deal. The hardest part about a race like Boston with a late start, or a race like Disney with an early start, is what do you do in the hours leading up to the race? What do you eat? If your race is at 10, the Boston conundrum is, well, I leave my hotel or my house at 5, 6. I can't cook a breakfast. I can't lounge around sipping coffee and water. I can't go to the bathroom. I'm on a school bus in the middle of nowhere. And put me in this athlete village. There's nothing to do here. There's no place to go to the bathroom, nothing to eat.